Christmas night. Christmas Eve at my mother's house was always loud. Too loud. The living room glowed with golden lights, a massive tree stood in the corner, and the smell of roasted turkey filled the air. Everyone was smiling, but not the warm kind of smile. The kind people wear when they're pretending. Grandpa Walter arrived late, as usual. He walked slowly, leaning on his old wooden cane, wearing the same worn brown coat he'd owned for years. No fancy gifts. No flashy entrance. Mom whispered under her breath. He still dresses like it's 1995. I hugged Grandpa tightly. Merry Christmas, Grandpa. He smiled at me, the kind of smile that made you feel safe. After dinner, Grandpa cleared his throat. I have something for all of you. Mom raised an eyebrow. Dad, you didn't have to. Grandpa reached into his coat and pulled out 4 envelopes. White. Plain. No decorations. He handed one to Mom. One to my brother Mike. And one to me. Inside each envelope was a check for $20,000. The room went silent. Then Mom burst out laughing. The mockery. Dad, seriously, she said, holding the check up. Is this a joke? Mike squinted at his. This has to be fake. Mom waved her check in the air. Look at this account number, she laughed. This is from a closed account. She turned to everyone. Don't embarrass yourself, Dad. This is just a prop. Mike didn't even hesitate. He walked to the fireplace. If it's fake, it's trash. And threw his check straight into the fire. The paper curled. The ink burned. Gone. I froze. My heart pounded. Grandpa said nothing. He just looked down at his hands. The choice. Mom crumpled her check and tossed it onto the table. Honestly, Dad, this is sad. Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I looked at Grandpa. His eyes met mine. And in that moment, I saw something no one else did. Not confusion. Not embarrassment. Certainty. I folded my check carefully. And slipped it into my purse. The silence before the truth. Part 2, the morning after Christmas. Christmas morning felt colder than usual. Not because of the weather. But because of the way everyone acted. Mom barely spoke to Grandpa. She moved around the kitchen loudly, slamming cabinets as if that would erase last night. I don't know why he does things like that, she muttered. Giving fake checks, humiliating himself. Grandpa sat quietly at the dining table, sipping his coffee. He didn't defend himself. He never did. Mike laughed as he scrolled through his phone. I still can't believe you kept that check, he said to me. You know it's worthless, right? I nodded slowly. Maybe. Mom turned sharply. Lily, don't waste your time. That account was closed years ago. She lowered her voice. I worked at a bank once. I know how these things work. Grandpa looked up. For a split second, I thought he might speak. But he didn't. He just looked at me, and nodded once. A private moment. Later that afternoon, I helped Grandpa put on his coat. As I handed him his cane, he paused. You didn't have to keep it, he said softly. I wouldn't blame you. I swallowed. Why did you give it to us? He smiled faintly. Because money doesn't show who people are. Their reaction does. Then he leaned closer. Whatever happens, thank you for not laughing. Those words stayed with me. The decision. That night, I sat on my bed staring at the check. $20,000. The signature was real. The ink hadn't smudged. The paper felt official. Maybe it was fake. Maybe everyone was right. But something inside me wouldn't let it go. The next morning, I made a decision. I grabbed my purse. "Where are you going?" Mom asked. "Out." "To the bank?" she scoffed. "Lily, don't embarrass yourself like your grandfather." I hesitated. Then said quietly, "I already watched everyone embarrass him." And I walked out. The bank. The bank was quiet. Too quiet. I stepped up to the counter and slid the check across. The teller glanced at it casually. Then, the check everyone regretted. The bank teller looked up. I stood there, frozen. The teller returned, but this time, she wasn't alone. A middle-aged man in a dark suit followed her. The bank manager. He looked at the check. Then at me. Then he smiled. "Ms. Anderson," he said calmly. "Thank you for waiting." My hands were shaking. "Is there a problem?" I asked. The manager shook his head. "No. Quite the opposite." He turned the check toward me. "This account is not closed." I blinked. "But, my family said." The manager interrupted gently. "It was converted." He tapped the screen. "Into a protected trust account." My heart started racing. "Your grandfather, Walter Anderson, opened this account over 30 years ago. It can only be accessed under very specific conditions." I whispered. "What conditions?" The manager smiled. "Integrity. The truth." He explained everything. Years ago, Grandpa sold a small piece of land he owned quietly. He invested the money carefully, never telling anyone. Not his daughter. Not his grandson. Only the bank knew. Every Christmas, he tested one thing. Who would value trust over greed? The manager slid the receipt toward me. "Your check is valid," he said. "And fully funded. $20,000. Real." My knees nearly gave out. Going home. When I got home, the house was loud. Mom was on the phone. "I'm telling you, the man is losing his mind." She stopped when she saw my face. "What's wrong?" I placed the bank receipt on the table. Silence. Mike leaned forward. "What's that?" "Proof," I said quietly. Mom picked it up. Her smile vanished. This isn't possible." Mike's voice cracked. "You mean, the check was real?" I nodded. Mom dropped into, and I laughed at him. Mike stared at the fireplace. At the ashes. Where his check used to be. The apology. Grandpa was sitting in the living room. Alone. Mom approached him slowly. "Dad," her voice broke. "I'm sorry." Mike swallowed hard. "I burned mine," he whispered. Grandpa looked at them. No anger. No pride. Just calm. "I know," he said. He turned to me. "You kept yours." I nodded. "Because I trusted you." Grandpa smiled. "That's why it worked." The final words. Later that night, Grandpa held my hand. "Money comes and goes," he said softly. "But respect, that's rare." He squeezed my hand gently. "Never let anyone convince you your kindness is weakness." That Christmas, I learned something my family never forgot. The quiet ones see everything. And sometimes, they're the richest of all.